Good day, everybody. I'm Redeyes, and today we're asking, what's this then? About Doom the Dark Ages. So, Doom the Dark Ages, as you might imagine, is the next installment in the newer line of Doom games, and is an FPS. Shocking. Developed by id Software, published by Bethesda. This one comes out after Doom Eternal, but it is a prequel to both Doom Eternal and 2016. Now it's a bit of an interesting one, I enjoy how each three of these new Doom games has changed up the gameplay quite drastically. But we'll get more into that once we get into like gameplay and stuff. Right now, so platforms-wise, this game comes out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Game Pass, Steam, pretty much everywhere that isn't the Switch at the minute. Comes out on a few streaming services as well. Now this one came out on the 15th of May, and it retails for about £69.99 or $69.99. We're starting to see those game prices going up. Potentially even more at some point soon. But yeah, before we dive into the gameplay, let's start talking about that. Let's have a look at the settings. And there is an interesting little thing about the game settings here. But to start with like the game stuff, you can just like toggle on a few like if you don't want the tutorials on for your second time playing through the game. You can have a little auto sprint, which is quite nice actually. I might actually turn that on myself. Objective markers, you can turn that off if you want to explore yourself. Phase, days, circles, all these little UI elements, turn them off. Weapon switching, all that sort of business, and we have a lot of UI color customizability for colorblind options, which is always very nice. Hop into the more specific UI settings, and you're able to change font scale, which I personally appreciate. I've just recently switched over to a 4K monitor, and I have to say, loving it. And without font scaling, it'd be kind of tough in some games, I'm not gonna lie. Very small text sometimes. But yeah, you can mess about with all sorts of stuff here. Change the reticle style, subtitles, all that sort of business. Audio, pretty much everything you'd want to see here. Master, music, sound effects, voice. I mean, that's really all encompasses pretty much everything you're going to be hearing. Do your mix options, and Slayer Pain Grunts is kind of a funny one. I believe, my knowledge, maybe slipping a little bit here, but I don't believe in 2016 or Eternal you heard any sorts of pain grunts, or at least not to the level in this one. This one makes it sound like kind of how you did in the original Doom when you got hit, which is funny. First time I heard it, I was like, oh, I didn't expect that, because I didn't notice this setting the first time around. But you can turn it on and off if you want, because it is quite different. Like I said, I don't believe Eternal in 2016 had anything like that, so it might throw some people off. It's nice that you can turn it off. Mouse sensitivity and all that sort of stuff, there's pretty much everything in here that you would need. You can change like weapon wheel, open delays and all sorts, so that's nice. Full reboundability for every aspect of the game, which is very nice. Not just, gameplay stuff, there's also like even map, navigation buttons that you can rebind, which is just going the extra mile, we like that. Right, now we get into the graphics. This is where the interesting part comes in. So, the id Tech engine is kind of like magic. I'm pretty sure we're all like on board with that now. Like Doom Eternal looked absolutely fantastic, and it ran even better. Now this one, there is a slight asterisk to that, and that is that this game has forced ray tracing. If your GPU cannot do ray tracing, you cannot play this game. I believe the other high-profile game to come out recently that did that was the Indiana Jones game, and did see quite a bit of complaining about it. And at the time, in the Indiana Jones one, I was probably on board with that. I was like, yeah, I don't know about that one. Ray tracing still seems like a big leap for some people, especially in terms of performance. But I believe this just might be the way games are going, because I've read up a few things on it now, and I believe it's the case that if devs can just bake in ray tracing for their lighting, then they can spend time doing other things elsewhere, and the technology is now to the point where we're seeing similar jumps in technology that are requirements now than we did back in the day. Like I believe there was one for Half-Life 2 called pixel shading that required your GPU to be able to do that, to be able to play. We're seeing sort of a similar leap here. Only thing is now we're not seeing as big a graphical leap with these games, so I think it's harder for a lot of people to justify that sort of thing. So I can totally understand it from both perspectives. However, I do feel like this is just the way things are going now that ray tracing is becoming more and more doable. Well, doable is subjective there, but depends on your card and all that sort of stuff. But it is one thing to be very aware of. If your GPU cannot do ray tracing, cannot play this game. Or at least I presume you can't play it. I know with the Indiana Jones game you couldn't play it. I assume it's going to be a similar case here. I don't think it'll just be able to toggle ray tracing off and your game will just look like it has no lighting. I believe it just won't let you play. So that is one thing to be very aware of here. In terms of the rest of the graphic settings, it's all really good stuff. I mean, tech engine, it's very customizable in terms of what you got here. Motion blur, which you can actually turn on just for cinematics, which I actually just like for cinematics. I turn it off for the gameplay, but for the cinematics, I feel like that's, it's fine to have it there. You've got your HDR, you've got all your sharpenings and your upscaling and stuff. In terms of performance, I would say that it feels like this game is running a little bit heavier than something like Doom Eternal did, which is supposed to be expected, newer game, newer technologies, that built-in ray tracing, for example. And also the fact that I'm playing on 4K now, so whereas opposed I was playing on 1440p then, so I'm definitely experiencing a bigger hit there, so that could just be mostly a placebo thing on my end. But I have noticed I pretty much had to turn on DLSS to be able to crank everything to Ultra, Whereas before I would have been able to crank it all to Ultra, and if I wanted a bajillion frames, I could turn on these if I wanted. But keep in mind, the game still runs really well. There's no I haven't really noticed any significant hitching or stuttering or anything like that. We're not talking an Unreal Engine 5 experience here. We're talking it runs well. You just have to have the horsepower for whatever tier of sort of quality you're looking for. But you do, like I said, you have a ton of customizability. I'm sure you could make this game work with almost any graphics card. Like I said, as long as you have ray tracing capability. So that's that asterisk right there. I've been seeing pretty darn good frames, but at the same time, I have a 4090 and a 7800X 3D. I ain't jumping to that 50 series. Screw that. So yeah, your mileage may vary, but it's looking good. It's looking good. But asterisks. And in the last slot, you've got accessibility stuff, so you can, screen shake, auto map color, weapon bob. Yeah, it's just all your accessibilities in one place. There's a lot of it here. There's a lot of it. I think you'd be very happy with everything that's here. Right. But with that sorted, let's actually jump. Actually, no, I want to show you the difficulties because that's one thing they changed slightly. Also, as a side note, I hate it when games do this. Put an advertisement for their upgrade to premium on the main screen. I don't know, just cheapens the experience of the game a little bit to me. It's I'm not playing an experience right now, I am playing your product. And I suppose that is technically, video game is a product of the company selling it, I suppose. But, I don't know, for me, it's just one of those little things. I just hate to see it. I prefer if it just wasn't there, and we just had a big cool screen, because this main menu is pretty sick. There's also my Doomslayer with a little skin here that I got, even for just getting it on Game Pass I got this, which is very strange. Because I thought it was a pre-order thing, maybe? But anyway, so I've made 2 save files here. So like I said, this is or like I've said in the past, not in this video yet, this is a first impressions series, so I have not beaten the game, but I've put in the chapter 10 on nightmare difficulty, and I've also cranked some of the difficulty settings, which I'll show you in a moment here. I've just started a new one here to show you one of the earlier levels, in fact the first level, just to avoid spoilers and stuff. But I'll quickly click on the new slot so I can show you the difficulty settings here. So if you have played Doom Eternal and Doom 2016, these look pretty familiar. Aspiring Slayer, Hurt Me Plenty, Ultraviolence Nightmare, and then Pandemonium is a new one. Normally it was just Ultra Nightmare, which was if you die, game over, restart your entire game. Not just the level, not just the checkpoint, the whole game. pandemonium, I can say that word, isn't that you will restart the entire game. That's still possible, but there's these things called life sigils, which are basically 1-ups, extra lives. If you die while you have a life sigil, you just restart the chapter. So basically the level. You restart the level. And if you run out of life sigils and die, then you restart your entire game. So it's kind of like Ultra Nightmare with a teensy bit more leniency. Would not recommend either of those two for a first time playthrough, but I think everyone mostly knows that at this point. Personally for me, I've been playing on Nightmare, so this game is not as hard as Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, I think, is the peak of the series, for me personally, just to get that out there, like, before we even get into gameplay. Again, I'll talk a bit more about why that specifically, but I do believe this game is easier. But yeah, let's skip through that. So this is what you get. So this is kind of like the Nightmare preset that they've sort of given you. And you can tweak this, so you can make the parry window smaller. I would recommend making the parry window probably 1 tick to the left here. Like 2 out of 5. It's very generous on 3. It's extremely generous. Yeah, so I'd recommend doing that one if you like your parries to be more like you have to really well time that parry. Damage to player. You can crank this up to 500%. The smallest enemy hits you and your health bar will just be gone. So if you really want to avoid damage. Damage to demons, you can make it so everyone's a glass cannon, if you wish. Like, you can take that up to 1000% and just nuke demons, but they'll also nuke you, which could be an interesting way to play the game. Enemy aggression, so that they're just less likely to attack you. Game speed, now this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one indeed. This, I believe, they knew that the criticisms were going to come in, that this game is not as fast as Doom Eternal. And for me personally, that was one of the things I really liked about Doom Eternal. I believe the flow state in that game is just one of the best. It's like almost perfect gameplay loop. It does have problems, but the gameplay loop itself, I believe, is like almost perfect. But this one slows things down, and I believe they added this to kind of alleviate that somewhat, and then also put a slower one, you know, if you still find Doom like too fast and stuff, because not a lot of people out there, like, Doom is a very aggressive game and it can be hard to get into if it's like, say, a first FPS, whereas if you put game speed down to like 50% and, you know, some of the other things, like, you could use this as like a pretty decent entry into the first person shooter genre. Yeah, like, you can do enemy projectile speed as well, like turning that down, but yeah, I believe they added this 150% to appease some of the Doom Eternal fans who are maybe thinking this game's a bit too slow after what Eternal was, because they did say in one of their little interviews that Doom Eternal, they wanted that game made you feel like you were a fighter jet, and this game, they want to make it feel like you're a tank, you know, so there's an extra weightiness to this game, and that is certainly there, 100%. Again, we'll get more into that in the gameplay here, but yeah, 150% I believe is probably a bit too much. Currently on my playthrough, my main one, I'm doing 130%. I believe that's a good middle ground. 150% is just like, it feels a bit too fast for new encounters. So whenever you come across an enemy for the first time, a new enemy, 150% is like, you're getting hit by whatever they're doing for the first time because you've never seen it, and it's almost impossible to react at 150%. In my experience anyway. Whereas 130%, you can still sort of get those reactions to an enemy for the first time. But if you don't mind, like, oh hey look, here's a new enemy time, I'm gonna die to it like 8 times before I figure out like what its deal is, then 150% probably is fine. You will also find yourself just dying to things that you just have no clue what happened. And that's actually a bit of a criticism about this game. But we'll get more into that again. Yeah, so let's actually jump into the first level here. Loading times lightning fast, as one would like to see from this the id Tech engine. So here we are in the world of Doom: The Dark Ages, and it is very metal. They have taken the dark medieval setting and really ran with it. The visual style of this game is really, really good. I like it a lot. And you notice we have a shield. That's one of the big things about this game. No dashes, no double jumps, you know, very different from Doom Eternal. So far, like, I do like it. I do like it. That's one thing I have to keep, like, reminding myself, and I'll have to keep saying, is I do like this game. To me, Doom Eternal is, like, the pinnacle. I don't believe this game reaches those same heights. However, it does sometimes. It does sometimes. I don't believe it does it as consistently, and some of the choices were not for me. But again, not the sort of choices that I'm like, that's bad. Just not for me. But the shield does allow you to do some really cool stuff. I need an enemy to be able to show you it, but not only can you block with the shield, as you might imagine, you can also charge with it, so an enemy will appear in front of you, you can lock on, you dash toward them, do a big AoE slam, and all the little enemies around them will also just all explode. It's very satisfying, huge sense of weight from that. I believe there's some enemies down here, so let's actually, I'll show you that now. So you can lock on the enemy, zoom in, and all the little enemies around them just exploded, and it's on like a short cooldown. Then you can do it again. And there's also a melee system. You'll see on the bottom right, I have 3 fist charges, and that basically allows me to punch enemies, and it kind of acts as our like chainsaw from Eternal, where it's used for ammo a lot. But there's also an upgrade system as well. I'll probably not be showing that in this video because it's in a further level, but you can spend some collectible gold and different collectible items to upgrade your stuff, and that includes the melee and the shield and all the guns. And here we're actually going to see the parry, to actually get out of the way. So you time your right click, you time your block with a green attack they call Hell Surge attacks, and you can deflect it back at whatever enemy fired it at you, and it'll just hit them or whatever enemy happens to get in the way. And it is very satisfying. Like, this parry system is very satisfying to do in the middle of a heated combat encounter, and suddenly you're just deflecting shots back at people, you're jumping between enemies, you're like, you know... There's these, like, they're not really the glory kills whenever they're, like, highlighted anymore. There are still kind of glory kills, but I think it involves you having to dash in with a shield and then do the E attack. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but it seems like things are a lot faster in terms of like those little animations now. They don't want you locked in as much. Now, one thing that might throw some people off, and I've seen a few other reactions to this, is that when you are parrying, or when you're like dashing forward with the shield, you can still absolutely be hit. So if you parry a green attack, but a red attack is hitting you at the same time from somewhere like off to the side, you might still get hit by that red attack if the parry didn't quite line up with it also being a block. So there are times where you parry an attack, but you still get hit by something else, and that can be a little bit frustrating. That can be a little bit annoying. Well, here we have one of the bigger enemies in the game, so you'll see it's kind of like a bullet hell, almost. Some enemies send out very bullet hell style attacks, but that's the glory strikes. So this enemy requires multiple to sort of take down. And we're getting ammo the whole time. It's still your usual armor and ammo pickups. You'll notice the Doom guy's face is actually at the bottom there, which is quite funny. Nice little callback. Occasionally, the eyebrow raises and the face changes based on health and all that sort of stuff. It's quite fun. I like that. Oh yes, the cultists. We'll get rid of you. Goodbye, fellas. So we still got our key system, Doom and key systems. Need them to get through a few places. Now, one thing we're about to come into here is one of the things that's a bit unique to this game in the Doom series. Not the map, but there's these more open areas. Now, Doom Eternal had some larger battle arenas just to facilitate the fact that you are very fast and very mobile and need a lot of space to maneuver in sometimes. But this game almost goes like open area at times. In fact, it does go open area. I don't want to say open world because it's not open world at all, but you might look at it and think like, wow, these are some big areas, which this is. In fact, I'll show it to you now. So we've just been unleashed into this sort of whole area, and I can go anywhere in this that I wish at any time. And this is like probably the smallest one of these I've seen so far. all the other ones after it are considerably larger. Like, they feel like I am in a big battlefield and I am running from area to area and I'm doing whatever it is I need to do. And you'll still have your, like, more linear kind of areas, like Doom 2016 was basically... I believe Doom 2016 has been a while now, but it was basically filled with the whole time. I don't think it had really any bigger areas at all. But yeah, the combat is a lot of fun in this. Like I said, you do feel very weighty. The whole stand and fight thing that they're trying to embody does work really well. Doing the parries back at enemies does make you feel like really good. It is a lot of fun. It is. It's just not Doom Eternal for me, and you're probably gonna get sick of hearing that, but unfortunately, it's like Doom Eternal is one of my favorite games of all time. So whenever a sequel to it comes out, it's really what's in the front of my mind as I'm playing. But at the same time, I do and can appreciate that they have changed up their games quite drastically from series to series, or from entry to entry. So Doom 2016 doesn't really play like Doom Eternal, and Doom Eternal doesn't really play like Doom the Dark Ages. Doom the Dark Ages doesn't really play like, 2016 or Eternal. And I think that's to be commended, to be honest. It's very impressive, because it's very easy just to find a winning formula and stick to it until it becomes, stale, and then you're kind of forced to change. So let's get a little glory kill on you. So that's kind of them there. I'll try and show you one of the shield ones here. If I can get it. It's kind of awkward. I'm not sure what really triggers it sometimes, but sometimes you'll like jump on an enemy and like, bash their head in or something like you would in Eternal while doing a glory kill, and it'll actually, take control away from your character for like a second to do it and stuff. But I don't hate the faster pace of not having to do those. We're trapped in here with a bunch of enemies, but the shield bash, just massive AoE. It's very satisfying. Like, you get these big hordes of like little shitters, and you just do one shield bash, and they all explode. That's very fun. Now, one thing I will say, the shield. Now later on, you do get the ability to throw the shield. I'm just not showing that level yet, or I probably won't show that level here. But you do get the ability to throw the shield, Captain America style, except it has a saw blade in it, a bit more violent, and that is very fun. However, one thing this does mean is because the shield is bound to your right click at all times. This will never not be the case, at least from what I've seen so far, and I don't imagine that'll change. It does mean that secondary fires on all the guns have become extinct, essentially. Yeah, they're just not in the game anymore. There's no secondary fires. Now, you can still upgrade the guns, and you can still affect how they work, but there won't really be distinct secondary modes for guns. And in fact, speaking of guns, here's a new one. Very cool looking gun. Very, very cool. Like I said, thematically and like stylistically, like everything looks great here. This is kind of like your machine gun stand-in. It's very fun. That's kind of more of a glory kill there, but it's like a partial one because you're kind of half killing that enemy. You're killing the rider on top. Yeah, so secondary fires are gone, but like I said, you can upgrade weapons and still like affect how they're used. So they might interact with the shield. So one upgrade for the shield is that it has the buzzsaw on it, and if you throw it into a bigger demon, it sticks into the demon and keeps like cutting away and stunning them. And then an upgrade for the shredder here is that while that's happening, if you shoot the enemy, it will ricochet these spikes into nearby enemies, while also damaging the guy that you're shooting. So, there will be like, instead of secondary fires, it's more like you're creating more interactions between your arsenal. So that's going to be, just a love it or hate it type thing, really. Personally, I kind of like both. I'm very stuck in the middle on it. And we have a little secret. The little toy figures are back. That's fun. I'm kind of in the middle because I like what both are doing, but I would miss both if both were gone. Like I would miss the shield if it weren't here, but I miss the secondary fires of the guns as well. So I guess it just goes to show they've made another sort of compelling gameplay system there because, I would miss it if it was gone, but I also missed their other one that was also very compelling, so interesting, not a bad problem to have. Yeah, let's get rid of you. Little glory kick. Get some ammo. Dash into you, we don't want you here anymore. Do a little parry back at you. Jump on over, kick you up. Parry you, get out of my way. Okay, it is very fun. Like, you can... I feel like you can kind of see the moments that could happen once this game starts getting a lot more hectic and once there's a lot more demons and you're dancing between enemies, like dashing forward, blocking a strike and then parrying one back at someone, and you know, so, someone kind of described, I seen a statement kind of describing Doom Eternal and now this game to some extent as battle chess, where enemies present to you this obstacle and you have to do a certain thing to get around that obstacle. But the Dark Ages one is definitely more like slower paced battle chess, whereas Eternal was like blitz battle chess, you know. It's a interesting way to think about it. We got a secret key, because, you know, classic Doom, there is many secrets. However, the map just kind of shows you where they all are. Now, it doesn't tell you how to get to them, although sometimes it does. Like, the secret I find with the toy down there, like if I just look at the map, I can see I just jump off that and there it is. So that sucks a little bit, just knowing you can open the map and just find all the secrets. I know there's people out there who don't care much for like scouring a level and stuff, but I feel like it takes some of the fun out of it whenever you just stumble across a secret. And I suppose you could still do that, but just at all times you can just hit tab and be like, okay, there's a secret under there, so, you know, I'll just get to that at some point. I probably, you know, jump off that and go there, and then, you know, job's done. Instead of, like, you know, looking at each individual area and being like, where's the secret here? Just feel like it's slightly less rewarding, but at the same time, you know, it's something people like, when they don't like having to spend like 10 hours on every level to look for every secret or whatever, so. Me personally, I'm not a fan, but I know some people will like that. Now, speaking of some things that people like that I personally really don't like, and it is how they're handling the story in this. Maybe thinking, Doom story? What's going on there? Because Doom 2016, I feel like in the first half of it at least, it was quite famously known for not giving a shit about the story. Doom guy is here, demons are here, there's the problem. You know, demons gotta go. And now, toward the latter half of the game, it definitely came into its own more with, like, a bit of a story, you know, the whole stuff with, like, Samuel Hayden and stuff like that. There was definitely, you know, some conversations had and things spoke about, that sort of stuff, but it really just came down to Doom guy just wants demons gone, and, you know, demons are here, so there's your issue. Now, Doom Eternal did have more of a story, but it was so over the top. It was so ridiculous, you know, like, or at least that's how I sort of remember it. It was like, here are these story elements, but they're just ridiculous, you know, very, very, like, the Doom guy is this unstoppable force, kind of like over the top. It really sold that idea through its story, and I think that worked really well. Maybe not ideal. Like, I think the perfect one for me is the sort of first half of Doom 2016, whenever the Doom guy himself almost seems to be wanting to, like, say, screw you story, I don't want to hear it, there's demons and I'm gonna kill them. This game, however, has fully fledged just cutscenes with other characters having conversations that don't involve the Doom guy, talking about stuff. Like, there's characters who are looking for the MacGuffin, the magical MacGuffin, and it almost feels like Doom guy is a secondary character in this story. Like, you're there, but these other characters are doing something, and you just happen to be sent in these moments. It's a weird choice, especially considering how Doom 2016 started. It feels like that idea has been completely 180'd in this game. So far, none of the cutscenes, I would say, have been really worth watching. I feel like you could skip them and just be having as good a time, but at the same time, I know there's people out there who enjoy having a bit more of a robust like connection to where they are, how things are moving, in terms of like actual like cutscenes sort of saying, you know, like, hey look, here's what we're doing, here's the characters, here's the plot motivations, all this sort of stuff. Me personally, take that stuff out of here. Take that stuff out. I don't think this stuff works very well in this game at all. Because I don't even think it's done particularly well. You know, it's not even the fact that it is here, I just don't even think it's done particularly well. Like, the characters and stuff just aren't really that interesting. Oh yes, this bit. The characters and stuff aren't really that, like, interesting. The only interesting parts are whenever the Doom guy's on screen. And those parts are kind of interesting. However, I would prefer if they let these things happen sort of organically in gameplay. So a big part of this one, and they've shown this off in sort of the promotion material, so I feel okay talking about this, is the fact that the Doom guy is kind of being controlled. Well, not really controlled, like more like tethered, leashed. Oh, hang on. Yeah, like he's being leashed. So in the opening cutscene, you'll see the Slayer be sent down. It's this big cool cutscene. It is a cool cutscene about how we're sending in the Doom guy. You know, like be ready. Like we're sending it. Activate the Doom Slayer. It's all cool, and he has the big landing and shit. And then at the end of the level, which you might see here, depending on how far we get, the Doomslayer is kind of pulled back up, and you sort of are shown signs of the Doom guy like struggling with this idea that, you know, they're controlling him and all this sort of stuff. And I think it would just be such a better idea if imagine I'm doing what I'm doing right now in the gameplay, and I kill the last demon, and I hear a report of more demons like are about to hit somewhere else. But then I'm just leashed again. You know, like in gameplay, full control still from me, but control is like wrestled away from me. I'm still in the first person perspective, you know, a cutscene hasn't started or anything, but I'm literally just like whisked away, and now I'm like, you know, just waiting until they let me out again. Like, I feel like something like that, in terms of gameplay, would be so much more interesting than just having a cutscene where I'm told this is what's happening. You could have this happen to the player, and then the player would be in the same shoes as the Doom guy, and how he's really frustrated with the fact that they are like wrestling it away from him. And I think that would be a lot better. I feel like they missed a great opportunity, or I feel like they've chosen the wrong priorities in going for these like cutscenes. This cutscene, more storied, heavy cutscene approach. That's the way I'm looking for it. So yeah, that's probably my biggest gripe with this game, is how they're doing the story. If I had to pick one thing and go like, yeah, they kind of dropped the ball on that one, I would say it's with that. I just think it hurts the game. It's not even like neutral to the game for me. I believe it actively hurts the game. Look at that though, that's sick. That's one thing that the game is not slacking on, is the environment stuff. Like it does look great. The vistas, much like Doom Eternal, the vistas are absolutely gorgeous, and you know, you just sort of find yourself stopping and looking at them going, holy shit, this is the most metal thing I've ever seen. Alright, now let's, now there's a turret section. Now they are fond enough of these little turret sections, which I find interesting, because I've always kind of thought of a turret section as, or the best way you should do a turret section is to make you feel powerful, you know? Like, you're playing a game where your character could not do what the turret enables you to do, like, at all. And then the turret gives you this massive feeling of empowerment. You know, this like brief moment of, I am the strongest guy ever. But in Doom, I feel like I could do all of this without the turret, you know? So it kind of just feels like you're lessening the gameplay. You know, like, imagine we had a scene where I was launched onto this demon. and then we're killing it, you know? Like, I just feel like that would be so much more interesting than this sort of turret section. And, like, cinematically, like, these look great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that scene is cool. It's just the fact that we're doing that scene as the Doomslayer is the part that makes it, like, tough. So I'm just gonna skip through this cutscene. So yeah, you do your chapters, and you see all the secrets and stuff that you missed, and then you move on. There's 22 chapters. Then you move on to the next level. And once again, I'm just going to skip the cutscenes, because again, I really don't think you're missing a whole lot, to be honest. Every now and again at the start of a level, you might get like a weapon pod as your new weapon. Or you might get this in the middle of a level as well. But here's the saw for the shield I was talking about earlier. That enables us to throw it, and this is very fun. This is a ton of fun. Like, the shield was a great choice. Absolutely great choice. I just think it came at the expense of like some like secondary fire. Made the guns feel a bit more secondary. And I guess maybe, you know, maybe that's just a deliberate choice for this game, you know, like, because the melee's more involved. The shield is always with you. You're never without shield. So it's very possible that that was a deliberate choice. But it's very, very fun to use. Especially when you start seeing like more like fodder enemies and you toss it through them all and they all just like slice in half. It's and you use it to deal with shielded enemies like this as well. So you superheat their shield, make it orange like it is now, and then you bang it off of them and then they explode in a big AoE and you get all the drops and stuff. Very satisfying. And it's also how you'll do some like puzzle solving and environmental exploration like this. And you'll get a bunch of different uses for the shield. Think of it, it's very reminds me a lot of God of War 2018, or even Ragnarok, Kratos' Leviathan axe, using it for environmental, like, puzzle solving, stuff like that. Reminds me a lot of that. Yeah, I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to talk about here before I call it a video? I feel like this has been a bit of a longer one. I haven't really done these videos in a while. Recently moved, well I say recently moved to the start of the year, and it just kind of threw everything off, and I've been struggling to get back into the flow of like making the videos and stuff. So hopefully this will kickstart that back up again, because there's a couple of games I want to make these videos on. But yeah, I think that's really so I suppose there are a couple of like other gameplay sections in this one. Like I'm sure you've seen, like, you pilot a mech and you fly a dragon at some point. Now these are very infrequent, they don't happen too often, they just sort of mix up the gameplay. Personally, I don't like them that much. They're cool thematically, but in terms of actual gameplay, it just feels like I'm playing a worse game. And I don't ever get the feeling, or I never got the feeling in 2016 or Doom Eternal that they needed those. I don't really feel that here either, so it feels like they were just put in as like spectacle, you know, just as like eye candy, essentially. Personally not a big fan of them. They're not terrible, they're not super long. Some of them will involve you jumping back into the normal gameplay as well as doing those, so yeah. Don't hate them entirely, but just not a big fan. Yeah, I think other than that, that's really all I wanted to talk about this. When I say all I wanted to talk about is if I didn't just yap for however long this video is going to be. Yeah, like I said, thanks for watching. I think I'm going to try and get more of these videos done. Like I said, I kind of fell off the horse a little bit with making them, so I'm going to try and get back on that because I enjoy talking about games. I enjoy giving my first impressions. So that's kind of what this has been. First impressions of Doom, the Dark Ages. It's very good. It's very good. It's just not Doom Eternal good to me. Still fantastic. Now, is it worth, this is the big question, is it worth $69.99? Don't know. Don't know. That's going to be a tough one to say because this is games prices going up. This is a Doom game where I think the quality has come down slightly. Only in some ways though. Only in some ways. The gameplay is just different, like I said. So it'll be up to yourself whether you feel like what I've shown you here is worth it for that money. However, it is on Game Pass, so if you do have access to Game Pass, which is where I'm playing it, I think it's a very worthwhile Game Pass edition. Very worthwhile. But to spend the full price on Doom the Dark Ages, and I said Doom Eternal, Doom the Dark Ages, I'd be tempted to say I couldn't really justify it, you know? Maybe just couldn't really justify it. Like, maybe £10 cheaper, you know? And I feel like I could. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one. But you'll have to make that decision for yourself. Yeah. That has been Doom the Dark Ages. Has been my first impressions. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I shall see you guys on whenever I upload the next one. See you then. Bye-bye.